So last night we landed in Texas. We are stopping over before going back to Melbourne. This is just the hotel they put us in because they fucked up our flights. And yeah, I'm gonna go get in a quick workout in the hotel gym because I haven't trained in 4 days now, which is very unlikely, but my recovery wasn't great. And then we started traveling, we had the delay. So yeah, very basic hotel gym, but I'm really excited to go train. I just had a breakfast. I had a breakfast buffet downstairs. I got some coffee, some English muffins, and then some eggs. I did the best that I can, but hey, sometimes circumstances are less than ideal, especially when you're traveling. But yeah, I'm really excited to go get in a workout before like a literally 14+ hour flight. I'm feeling very soft at the moment. Definitely going to need to do like a little bit of a mini cut when I get back, maybe just 4 weeks or so, just to nip a bit of the fluff off before going back into my build. But yeah, it's a really nice day outside. Let's go. This is the gym for today. Okay, so just got to the gym. There was someone training here, so I had to wait a little bit just because I don't feel comfortable filming someone else. But today, I'm going to do probably quite a random workout. I've got a 14-hour flight. I'm going to be super jet lag after that. So now is really the only chance I have to train in probably the next 3 days. So I'm going to make the most of it. I think it's all about, instead of an all or nothing mindset, just being like, okay, what can I do? What's going to help move me towards my goal? And mainly it's just to feel good. Like I can't stand the thought of jumping on a 14-hour flight and being sedentary without getting some movement first. You feel so good after a workout. So instead of aiming to hit like PBs or anything crazy today, I'm just going to aim to perform some pumpy style stuff, some metabolic work, and kind of like a circuit to keep my heart rate up. So yeah, this is all they've got. Unfortunately, they only have weights up to 20 kilos, some balls and some cardio, but we won't be using the cardio machines. So we're taking you through what are we doing today. Honestly, I know that today I ain't going to be hitting no PBs or anything crazy, but it's mainly just a feel-good session to get blood flowing. And at the very least, just kind of maintain the muscle. But in all honesty, it's mainly just because I feel like shit and super sedentary if I don't get my body moving. So my first exercise was a dumbbell bent over row. My mic actually wasn't recording, but dumbbell bent over row, I really like this one as it's very stable and it allows you to just really focus on your rhomboids and your mid back, your lats as well, without your lower back being the limiting factor like a barbell bent over row. So massive fan of this one. You can also perform an incline dumbbell prone row and that will do the same thing, but it's a little bit more time efficient. So essentially, I'm really focusing on retracting my shoulder. So a lot of people actually turn a row into a bicep exercise. They won't retract their shoulder enough. And so they end up using like a ton of the front of the shoulder and their biceps. So really important to think about instead of just pulling with the elbow, we really want to try and retract with our shoulder and squeeze the middle of our back. I also like to rotate my head slightly towards the side I'm pulling with to get a deeper contraction. My grip strength actually gave out so bad during this. I wish I'd brought a pair of straps, and I do like to tilt the dumbbell down slightly during the exercise by just grabbing with my thumb, my index finger and my middle finger, and that way it strains the wrist a lot less. Next, I jump straight into a B stance hip thrust variation, and I set up a regular flat bench on a slight declined angle so that it rested just beneath my scap. During times where you have a very limited basic setup of equipment like a hotel gym, there's a few things you can do to create a great stimulus if you don't have much load available or many specialized equipment. You won't always have like prime to train with, so we're going to increase the time and attention. Really, if you can't increase weight that much, you can really slow down tempos or even do eccentric pauses, so pause at the bottom of the range to create a lot more tension on the muscles. So yeah, slower reps, longer pauses, eccentric holds. Also unilateral exercise is really great. So for example, normally I'd like hip thrust, maybe 100, 130 kilos, but obviously the max weight I have in this gym is like 20 kilos. So another way is to create unilateral work. So perform single-sided work. It's going to be a lot more challenging for each side, and you'll be able to load up a little bit more. So that's what I would do. So inhaling at the bottom, driving through the working foot, and trying to stay as crunched as possible. Scooping up my tailbone like it's an ice cream scoop. And I'm driving through the heel of the working foot. So the foot that's always closest to me.
B stances can be really great if you've plateaued with a regular hip thrust to strengthen each glute individually, and they're also fantastic if you've got limited access to weight. So I would always opt for a unilateral compound exercise. That is going to be harder. So unilateral just means single-sided, and it is going to be a lot more challenging than performing a bilateral exercise, and you can actually use less load for them, and they're a little bit more challenging. So because this gym only had 20 kilo dumbbells, I was actually able to stack 2 of them and perform a single leg variation of a hip thrust.
Well, look at me doing some more metabolic work because I think that system is very untrained. So the more like powerlifting style, like very high load, kind of lower repetition amounts you do, the less you'd be trained in that metabolic system. So when it comes to high reps, I kind of just fatigue really fast. So I got into Dallas last night at like 12 p.m. And we were supposed to have a flight. We're actually from kind of Boston to Melbourne, but they cancelled that flight and messed it up. So then they had to fly us to Texas. I'm on a family trip at the moment just because my uncle got married. To fly us to Texas, we stayed there here for a night, and then we're going to fly to LA, and then we're flying to Melbourne. So what was going to be like a 1-day trip is now turned into a 3-day trip. But I mean, what can you do? The worst thing you do is like complain about things you can't change. So I'm just kind of trying to do the best that I can as far as my training and everything. I know it's not going to be like optimal, but there'll be the rest of my life to be able to do optimal training. But when we landed in Texas, it's so funny. I was telling Teddy that I don't know why I expected there to be like desert and tumbleweeds and like cacti, but it was like actually a city that didn't look like that. So yeah, I guess I'm just pretty uneducated. So I'm actually going to double up and get 2 of these 20 kilo dumbbells because that's the max I go do. I'm going to do B stands with these ones. Normally for B stands, I like to use a booty band as well to really help to engage my glute med as well a little bit to feel better. Just personal preference, but today I don't have my booty band, so I'm actually really keen to go back to Australia and my normal routine. I think traveling sounds really fun, but then you do it for like a couple of weeks, and by a month you're just over it. You just want to go back to your normal routine. So comment down below if you like me and thrive on routine. So another thing you can do to create more of a stimulus if you have very limited equipment or weight load on hand is to add in intensifiers. So things such as like drop sets, supersets, cluster sets, rest pause sets, giant sets. You can add 1 and 1/4 repetitions or triple contractions. There's such a number of them. So intensifiers will definitely be another way to create more of a stimulus on the muscle than just doing straight reps if you have limited weight loads. But I'll be focusing on mostly pausing in the eccentric component because obviously the eccentric phase is going to lead to the most hypertrophy. During the bottom, during the stretch in the muscle, that is where most of those micro tears are created, the ones that get stronger, they create muscle. So I'll be focusing most of them in the eccentric phase. Alright, so now I'm moving on to RDL'S, and I'm going to superset them with some lateral raises or probably some reverse flies. So with supersets, typically, start of breath, you do want to superset opposing muscle groups. So one muscle group completely gets a rest while you're working the other. That way, more time efficiency, keep your heart rate up. But you know, if I was going for like a PB on a really heavy load, in my normal gym, I would not be supersetting because it could take away from the recovery of that other one. But like in this environment where not too much heavy weight and I kind of just need to make the most of it, you know, superset is more ideal, more time efficient. Get your heart rate up, and yeah, let's go. I think the most I got up to on RDL'S was like 54 kilos. Today I'm just doing 20, so I'm going to focus more on that eccentric pause at the bottom.
So with the RDL'S, I was doing a pause variation at the bottom just to really load them eccentrically to cause more of a stretch on the glutes and hams. And I'm thinking about driving my hips and knees back as much as they can and then grabbing with the glutes as I go up while bracing my core and holding it briefly at the top.
My grip strength has really gone down since I've been traveling. I would say if your grip strength is the only thing that becomes the limiting factor to you being able to lift more, definitely invest in a pair of straps. They're so worth it. Like there's no disadvantage to using straps unless you're a powerlifter and that's what your sport requires. But if your goal is like bodybuilding or just building muscle and your working muscle that you're trying to target can do more physically, but the limiting factor is your forearm strength, your grip strength, then it is definitely worth investing in a pair of straps. But for all my warm-up sets, I don't like to use straps. I do think it's really important to have a base grip strength, but for my top working sets that are really heavy, I do like to use a pair of straps because it's like, if I'm trying to train that muscle group, it's like no disadvantage and it's just frustrating when your forearms take over. So any pull movement like RDL'S, anything like back and RDL'S, it can be really good to use straps like pull downs, seated rows, but obviously bicep curls. I wouldn't recommend using straps because this one is so heavy, but with a bicep curl, it's very unlikely your grip strength is going to fail. It's more going to be like a wrist thing, but yeah.
Potentially a better option for these would be to do a B stance variation or a single leg variation. You could probably load each leg individually a lot more. 20 kilos is decent for a little hotel gym to have still, but if you're at the point where that's like really too light for you, you can just do a single leg variation. I should have done a B stance, but if you're on a time crunch, B stance are going to, any unilateral exercise is going to take a little bit longer. So my grip strength was definitely giving out with these ones. I should have worn a pair of straps, but was just working with what I had on hand. Now moving on to some shoulders, I really wanted to add in some delts just for a bit of stimulation, and also who doesn't like nice capped shoulders when they're on holidays. So lateral raises honestly weren't working at all for me. I decided to superset the RDL'S with a lateral raise. So I did a bench supported variation. I really like this because it takes the load off your lower back and it just allows you to really stabilize yourself in place and solely focus on the delts. So I'm massive fan of this incline variation. I use like a 60-degree angle, and I thought about really driving up with my elbows and thinking about, rather than just like shrugging up, I thought about bringing the shoulders out. I thought about driving the shoulders out and really grabbing with them and driving up slowly. Another key I also use for these that makes a massive difference is at the bottom of the lift. When you're at the bottom, take a big breath, hold your breath, and then brace your core as you go up through the movement. Honestly, the thing I have struggled with the most on this trip and struggled before with when it comes to traveling with family would be not getting triggered by when people want you to deviate from your routine. They're like, why do you need to go train? You train all the time. It was a lot worse when I was younger. And normally I would have just done this trip by myself because I'm a fucking adult, but it is maybe potentially the last time I'm going to have to go to my dad's home country with him because he's getting older. So we wanted to do a family trip. So I'm pretty go with the flow with this trip, but I do have my non-negotiables that just help me to feel like myself again, which is going to the gym and my steps. I've been trying to keep them at about 10K a day, just because I don't like the feeling of being sedentary. I feel like this fucking thing is gonna break. It's held together by faith and duct tape. Okay, I'm gonna do a rest pause set. So rest for about 10 seconds and then go straight back into it. Oh God. This is probably the only time I do like a really dinky little workout like this, but you gotta manage what you have available. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. Sometimes it's actually fun forcing yourself to get a little bit creative. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do like a standing plate abduction, but I'm going to do it with a dumbbell. I'm going to hold onto something, place it on my outer leg. I think Brett Contreras invented this. It's called the Glute Med hip thrust. Really great if you don't have access to cables or an abduction machine. I'm going to kick it out. And then I'm going to twist into that back leg, like twist in to our hip. So we're getting a nice stretch in the glute med of the opposite leg. So twisting in, pause. And typically the lighter the load, the higher the rep range we want to go that you're going to need to get towards the failure point. So if I'm using a lot lighter weight than normal, that gives me permission to kind of go a lot more high reps than normal to reach a higher stimulus. If you're doing piss easy weights, it's going to take a lot more reps for you to get to that threshold point of being able to get a stimulus from it that's going to change you. With abductions, you can also program them a bit more frequently. You do have more slow twitch muscle fibers in there, so you can recover more easily. Oh my God, I can really feel that in the glute med. All right there, that one's awesome. Might even add this one into my normal routine. All right, other side. Jeez. See that? Shelf booty. Definitely something I'm trying to work on is growing my glute med. I just really like the look of this shelf booty. So unfortunately, some of us aren't blessed with hips, so now I'm going to superset this with some bicep curls, just for the ease of it, a bit of unilateral movement. So with a curl, we're going to go all the way down, come up and not pause for long at the top. Ow. I'm just going to do a hammer version because they hurt my wrists instead.
pussy effort. If you don't have much time as well and you're on like a time crunch, probably best to aim for more compound movements. I would have done things like dumbbell squats and did some hip thrusts, but compounds are going to be, if you have heavy loads, they're going to be a lot better bang for your buck. If you've got very light loads available, like I do, unilateral compounds are going to be great, such as like single leg. You could do like a Bulgarian. You could do a bent over row. You could do like a B stance glute bridge. You could do B stance RDL, maybe some standing unilateral shoulder press to challenge your core strength. There's many you can do, but your biggest high leverage exercises for time efficiency, and if you don't have much time, are going to be unilateral compounds. Normally I would have done full body today as well, but my quads are still kind of sore from 3 days ago. So that's why we're doing a bit of posterior today, because it's not good to train on sore muscles if they're not recovered. So that is everything. Going to go to the airport now and have my post-workout drink. Yeah, I didn't eat terribly on this trip, but it was actually really good most days. I think I lost a bit of body fat until probably the last 2 days. I hadn't seen my cousins in 10 years in the States. So they took me out for cocktails and the rest is history. It was fun. I didn't feel great the next day, but yeah, I don't drink often at all. I'm not really a massive drinker. Maybe once for a celebration every 6 to 12 months. But yeah, it's hot as fuck here. Look at this cup.